Hello and welcome to You'll Probably Agree. Today I have my good friend from Mash Media and Laugh Factory social media manager, Matthew Bright on. He is my number one go-to cool nerd when it comes to anything video games or comic book related. And you know what? I wanted to talk about video games for a long time on my show, and I put the message out online saying, hey, should I do video games? That everyone, including my friends in the press now. Okay, no, I'm not. They all said, yeah, go ahead and do it. So I'm like, hell yeah. PlayStation 5 got announced.
Yep.
I want to get a drone camera, but I also want a PS5. I don't know what to do. So mm, gotta make some money on the side. So yeah. With that said, I know you're a PlayStation fan. I'm a PlayStation fan. And I just wanted to talk about PlayStation because I've had it for a while, and I mean it's always been something that's been incredible for me. For you, what was like your first? Because like we're like in our 30s, so like
Yeah, I'm 3 years close to 40, and
yeah,
yeah. Well, 40.
yeah.
I'll be 37 in December. So yeah,
I'll be 35 in November. So yeah,
Oh, okay. Yeah,
yeah.
we are old. We are getting old, and yeah. No, my first like I guess the memory I can remember have the most are of two PlayStation 1 games, and it was like PlayStation sticks out to me because it was like the first 3D system that like was like this 3D environment type of game,
Mm.
and it was Final Fantasy 7 and
Oh yeah.
Metal Gear.
Mhm.
And Metal Gear on PlayStation 1 was just so crazy good. Like the storyline, the tactical espionage, like to do everything, like how you had to take down stuff, the iconic dialogue. I mean, uh, and then when you have to fight this one particular villain in the game, like there's like this, he's like I can read your every move. I don't want to like spoil it for anybody that hasn't played it, but like the thing you have to do to beat that particular character is it's like next level. It's so cool because it's like how did I had never played any kind of console game where I had to do that to beat the game in progress, like and
Mm.
Final Fantasy 7. I mean, there's nothing to say. It's the it's it's the OG daddy of RPGs on PlayStation. Period. It had a huge success with Final Fantasy 3 on Super Nintendo, and then when Final Fantasy 7 came to PlayStation, it just it literally changed the way storytelling was in video games. Period. Full stop. And I mean, just platformers, FPSs, everything all of a sudden was putting after that game put story into the game because of all the actions that happen within that game. People are like, man, I'm really immersed in this. I'm really dedicated to what's happening with these characters, and it puts you right there in it, and you're just like, it was that was a game changing moment, so to speak, no pun intended type stuff.
Mhm.
But
Oh
like,
yeah.
yeah, Final Fantasy 7 Metal Gear for sure.
Yeah, it's amazing. The way I sort of discovered PlayStation. I remember I went to this place when I was in this in the suburbs, and it was called the Firehouse. It was this abandoned firehouse that they turned into like this video game station. Each kid would have like 20 minutes to play these games. I knew about the PlayStation. I saw the commercials,
Right.
and nobody was playing the PlayStation then. They were all on the N64. Either playing GoldenEye or Ocarina of Time. And
That makes sense.
yeah, and I go over to the PlayStation, and I'm like, well, I want to check this thing out. I fire up Final Fantasy VII, and they begin with that opening scene in Midgar,
Yeah,
where you go from,
with a train. Yeah.
yeah, where you go from Eris's face, and you pull out, and you see the whole city, and the title comes across, and then it gets into the gameplay, and I'm like, oh my god, what is like? This is something the N64 could never do, mixing pre-rendered footage with real gameplay
Yeah.
and compiling it in this storytelling medium was just phenomenal. Cinematically, it was light years beyond. I mean, sure, the PC could do that, but PC's for nerds. No, I'm just kidding. But PC,
I mean,
that's
like PCs are multifunctional. You know what I'm
yeah,
saying? Like with a console to be able to do that, because PCs have always been more powerful. No one's going to deny that. Whatever.
yeah,
But at the time, if Final Fantasy VII is on PC, I'm not playing it. I
yeah.
wasn't playing it. I wasn't even thinking about it.
It's expensive,
And
and
we're
it's like you got to have the
yeah.
right chips and blah 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 blah. With a console, you pop the game in, you're good to go.
Yep, that's it. You don't have to have a proper. You have to, like computers are like you have to have the proper processor. You have to have the proper video graphics card. You have to have the proper, and it's like not everybody had access to that. But you could easily go into a store and buy a PlayStation or an N64, at the
Hmm.
time, and just be on your way.
Yeah.
It was just easier. It's
Oh
convenient.
yeah, I remember trying to run Star Wars TIE Fighter on my PC multiple times, and the damn thing wouldn't work. And I finally got it to work now through an emulator, 20 some odd years later, or who knows how long, maybe 30. And, I got to get a joystick now so I can pilot it like a pilot. And then, I can't wait to play Star Wars Squadrons, by the way, and get I have my brother-in-law as a VR helmet. So I'll do that, then get motion sick and projectile vomit all over myself and continue to play. Uh, but yeah, that'll be fun. But no, I mean, I remember seeing Final Fantasy VII when I was playing that. That was incredible. I didn't play the game too much at that time. I played it, and I remember I was like in junior high or something like that. And one of my friends came to my house and he saw me playing the game, and he's like, "You haven't leveled up any of your characters or anything. What the hell are you doing?" I
Yeah,
didn't know what he was talking about. I just skipped all the tutorials. I just constantly hit attack
yeah,
and smack guys with my sword. It wasn't until I got older that I learned how to beat the game. Uh, but the
and it.
real oh, go ahead.
Go ahead. No, you're good. Go ahead. The
Oh,
real what? Go ahead.
the real moment for PlayStation for me was I remember I kept hearing about Metal Gear Solid, but I didn't know what it was. Um, So I rented from my local Blockbuster Metal Gear Solid VR missions, thinking that was the game. And I'm playing it. I'm like, I don't get the big deal.
That's so funny.
Yeah. I'm just like, it's just these green square blocks, and you just have these little bit like, what's the big deal? So then, I don't know if you can hear the audio on my computer, but I'm gonna try to play this. They play they have this thing in the extras, and there's this trailer for Metal Gear Solid 1, and I'm like, "Oh, is this a real game?" I put it on, and then the best is yet to come starts playing. You know, I don't know if you can hear that or not,
Mm-hmm.
but you hear that music. They're playing that with it,
Yeah, I
and
can't hear it, but I know. Yeah.
yeah,
Yep.
and it's just this beautiful song, and it's compiled with this cinematic like imagery and this voice acting. And that was the first time I saw a video game, not just as a game, but I'm like, this is art. This
It's
is
an experience. It's an
yeah, this is a form of
experience,
storytelling.
not just right.
Yeah. I
One of
hopped
the
in.
go ahead.
No, you're good.
You hop in. I want to hear you tell the rest of your story because I have a moment cinematically with that like that for video games. But go ahead.
Okay. So I tell my mom about this game. I see this trailer. I hop into my local Best Buy, and then I get the best of edition of Metal Gear Solid. This might have been like in '99 I got it. So and the game came out I think in like '98. And
Mhm.
I remember firing that game up, and it was unlike anything I ever experienced, and it completely transformed my perception of video games, where it's a
Mm.
real form of storytelling, a real form of art that could one day be on the same level of movies. And
Yeah.
it's really being pushed to that extent. I know there's a lot of animosity towards The Last of Us Part 2, but that is a game that really
Yeah.
morally
I
challenges the
I haven't
hell out
played
of
it, but
you.
I know.
I can
Yeah,
give you
I
my
haven't
copy.
played it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, that'd be dope.
Yeah.
I haven't played it yet, but there are games that exist prior to Last of Us that have had that type of appeal and impact on people
Mhm.
that created this whole new lane of ways to play video games. there's this game called The Indigo Prophecy, I believe, on
Yeah.
PlayStation 2.
David
And it's
Cage's
kind of
first
like
game.
the
Yeah.
precursor. And it's the precursor to Heavy Rain.
Mm.
And Heavy Rain is just one of these massive thriller games where you play this father who wakes up from a blackout from a dream he had about this kid he used to have that he lost to a car accident because he wasn't keeping track of where he was. And because he did, yeah, exactly. And everybody knows, right? And everybody's aware of this. Yeah. And so like that game has multiple endings. It has and the story, and it's all about a storyline.
Yeah.
About the storyline of the origami killer, the FBI agent, the journalist, and you as the father. And
Yeah.
it's this immersive fucking moment, and it's a very intensely paid off. It's not even kind of like, all right, there's one scene when you're in the wreck the shipyard. I don't know if you've played this game, but there's this scene in the shipyard, and you're the FBI officer, and you're asking these questions. This one dude like, I don't like cops, and he's all like, cops, and if you answer this one thing wrong, and it was like, if you in the middle of the tussle, if the character dies, the character dies. That's it. Yeah, I don't know if there's a game outside of Heavy Rain that I've played that like was like that immersive. Like, as long as you kept the main characters alive, this is the type of ending you will get. If you do keep them alive, they have to make all the right choices if you're trying to solve crime, and the crime is who's the origami killer.
Yeah.
And you can end up not finding out, or you can end up finding out.
Yeah. It's funny when you play that game. Like the first time I played it, I fucked up entirely. Like I didn't find out. I think I got the address wrong for the killer. I just kind of like randomly guessed it, and Ian wound up like in the wrong warehouse. And I think Madison, she didn't know where the guy was, or she blew up in the house, and then Scott Shelby just got away with it. And then like the game ended with like Ian like shooting himself in the mouth. And I'm like, this is awesome. Like everyone failed. And then I'm like, I must have done something wrong. And then I like replayed it from the point where I screwed up, and then I got it right. But yeah, the PlayStation is always sort of what I really liked about their consoles, their games, is they really invested in the artists and were willing to take chances. Not to poo poo on Microsoft. Fuck them, I will. But like the Xbox feels like the red, white, and blue Star Spangled Banner, Mountain Dew, 6-pack of beer, truck nuts sort of hillbilly console. Where it's all about first person shooters and Halo.
Yeah, and that's kind of Microsoft's lane. They built their legacy on FPSs and MMO battles and big MMO battles, and so like their whole lane is that's what they're known for. And like Microsoft even getting into the console game when they clearly have a Windows like an operating system for PCs and stuff, and it's like, why couldn't you just make PC games more compatible and quickly, and just make the software more easily compatible so people can just pop the disc in and play the games? Because that's literally what the issue was with PC games. Like literally what the issue was. So why not just make games for the OS, especially being Microsoft? It's like Sony doesn't make, Sony is not in the computer making business at the time. They were just like, they made was it TVs, and like they were known for their audio sound and stuff like that. So when they jumped into the console game, you're like, I mean, it makes sense. You're like, oh, they make TVs, they make audio, they have an idea about an immersive experience as far as that's concerned. And then, they were giving you a 3D experience at the time. Like when Tomb Raider came out, people were like, this is so crazy. I can like jump off walls. I can do these crazy backflips. I can jump and shoot like, at an angle. Like I can do all these things you couldn't do on any other platform at the time. And then Xbox comes out, the controller's junky. I mean, like, that's kind of what sold it for a lot of people, because with PlayStation, they are considered, and this is just absolute fact, there are articles upon articles talking about this very factually. The Sony PlayStation controller is the perfect design controller. There is no controller better designed than a Sony PlayStation controller.
Now, which controller is that? The DualShock
dual
or
analog.
the very first one, or the
very
PS
first
one?
one? No, the dual analog one. The dual analog with the two and the
So
when I remember first seeing that. Yeah, the first DualShock. So when I first saw it, I was like, I don't know if I'm gonna get comfortable with this. But the moment I put it in my hand, my finger just went with it. You know, I wasn't uncomfortable using it. Like the only thing I have now with the PS4 controller is that option button right in the middle, the little hands-free thing that is useless in most games. But that's the PS4 controller. But the DualShock controller is one of the best, if not the best design controller. It's just they've said it in was it Game Pro? They've said it in what is that? CNET, CNET.com articles. Like it's comfortable. Doesn't make your hands sweat. Doesn't make your hands hurt. And if your hands do sweat when you play video games, maybe it's you.
Lose some weight. Yeah.
No, I don't know about lose weight, but I'm just saying, if you got sweaty hands, and maybe you just need to drink some more water or something. I don't know. But the PlayStation for me stands out because of just like aesthetically, it's a better design. The first PlayStation, and then the PlayStation 2 was designed pretty cool, all black, with the little, the disc jar comes out and it goes back in, and then the PS3 has the built-in, so it just takes the disc inside. Some people have the dual compatibility. Did you have that?
The dual, is that the one that's backwards compatible with PS?
Yeah, the backwards.
Do you have one?
No, I've never had backwards compatible. Yeah.
Then if you had one, that'd be great.
If you had a backwards actually, you know what? I might have actually bought a PS2 backwards compatible.
PS3 model that's backwards compatible with PS2.
The backwards compatible PS2 played PlayStation and PlayStation 2 games.
Wow. Yeah. Is it still there? Or is it like?
I don't know if you can. I'm pretty sure you can still get it, because it was the PlayStation 2 was the first like explosion on like online gaming, right?
Yeah.
And, like PlayStation 2 had that mod where it came with like an Ethernet pack, and you could just like go online through it as long as you had like an Ethernet cable to hook up to your Wi-Fi modem.
That's one thing I'll give Microsoft credit for. They were the ones who successfully started online gaming through console. Like Sony tried it, but
I mean, and I think that's what keeps Microsoft alive, is that they pick their lanes. They were like, we got these MMO games that you can play online with a lot of people, and it'll be totally immersive experience. It's always going to be an immersive experience. We've mastered these FPS games, and that's what we can give you. Those are our strongest sellers. That's what makes this console drive. With Sony, it is so much like personal gaming that you can do with Sony. Like, you don't have to be playing a FPS to enjoy a PlayStation game. Like, like you just saying, you finished up Last of Us 2, Last of Us, the God of War series, even the new God of War, the Infamous series, Sly Cooper, Crash Bandicoot, the Grand Theft Auto series, not Grand Theft Auto because I think that's on both platforms. But
but it started on like GTA 3 started on PS2 essentially.
Oh, okay. Thank you for that tidbit. I feel like a lot of I feel like a lot of developers that people took for granted, Sony was like, we'll go ahead and do it. Like Rockstar Games got their okay from and blew up from PlayStation games. Was it Santa Monica Studios is another one that's big. Unreal Engine games, like Unreal Engine is used on both platforms, but Sony's like, look, we'll use your engine to make any game. Like, can you do it until somebody comes along and does it better? And then they do a lot of exclusive gaming, like Marvel Spider-Man changed the way I look at superhero games. Because I thought superhero games were always a a cash grab. Like I always feel like superhero games were just, here's this Iron Man game because Iron Man the movie came out, and you're like, eh. And then there was the Spider-Man games from the original 3 Spider-Man movies that came out, and I remember playing those, and I played those because they were Spider-Man games. But like when I look back at them compared to the play style of this Marvel game, it's incredible. Another one that changed my mind, and this is on the flip side on Xbox, to be fair, is Arkham City. I know the Batman Arkham started, with Xbox, and they gave a battle system to the world that is gonna be duplicated until the end of time.
Yeah, well, Spider-Man, a lot of people have nicknamed it Arkham Spider-Man because it has a lot of similar mechanics in terms of you have the spider sense, which is like your dodge button where you press triangle at a certain time. And, you have the thing where you sneak up on your enemies and all that.
Yeah, so, and timing is, and the thing is, like, that understanding of, like, how do we make console gaming with a controller feel like you're immersed in the game without just telling people, here's this button combo combination you can pull off. And some people could just go, well, this one works the best, and I'm going to just keep using this one, and I'll beat this game. Yeah. Meanwhile, a game like Spider-Man on PlayStation 4, there are so many ways to play it, and there's so many styles that are effective. And depending on who you fight, you got to use particular ways. You got to use particular styles to beat them. And I think those two stand out heavily when you talk about PlayStation's just like taking things to another level.
Yeah. What do you think about the Miles Morales Spider-Man coming out?
I look forward to that because I sat there playing the first one like they were teasing me like I was going to get to play with Miles. Yeah. Like outside of like the one-off like hiding behind things and making and disarming electrical things. Like that was, I guess, playing Miles, but everybody knows what I mean when I say, I want to see the spacesuit. I want to see it all black. I want to see the red. I want to fly around. I want to disappear. I want to shoot electric bolts, swing around. And there better be a version of him wearing the what is it? Spider-Man the Spider-Verse suit.
I'm sure they'll have that. Because the cool thing,
I feel like we just wasted our time if we don't. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, Spider-Man, as we remember, that game, you could like wear every Spider-Man suit imaginable. You even had Spider-Pig in it, I think, as one of the suits.
That would be, and that's what I'm saying. Like just a noir for Miles, the Spider, all of it. Just give me all of it because this is that's gonna be a franchise game for them, just like, and that's the thing too. I guess PlayStation is franchise games for them just crush, and that's the thing. Like PlayStation gave us Final Fantasy VII, so Squaresoft was with Nintendo because of the Final Fantasy III series, and everybody's like, oh shit, that's gonna be amazing. But Sony Entertainment went ahead and said, hey, you sign up with us, exclusively. And we'll put out all of your products and platform games, all of your games that you come out with.
Well, I was going to say, essentially, the interesting thing with Squaresoft and Nintendo was they worked with Nintendo for years on making Final Fantasy games. And I guess Microsoft, I guess Sony, they had, because they had a disk-based system that could handle more data, it could do the type of game that they envisioned for Final Fantasy VII. And at first, I think everybody was skeptical, like, why are they going to Nintendo? But then once when Final Fantasy VII landed on PlayStation, it was absolutely mind-blowing. It was a game changer, and it really transformed the industry in a way.
Yes.
That was a historic moment for Sony. I mean, just the story behind how Nintendo, that's one thing I love to talk about, is how the PlayStation came into being. And it's because Nintendo made a very grave error because people, although they have this image of the, children friendly, nice company, they were like bullies. Maybe they still
Yeah.
are, but they would take Sega to court multiple times over petty little differences. Um, they would win too. Every other company tried to beat Nintendo for years. In one go, Sony destroyed Nintendo, and it was all because Nintendo finally pissed off the wrong person. Where they were supposed to release a disc-based system mixed with a cartridge, and there are still some models, some early builds that people have that go for a lot of money online. And that what happened was, unbeknownst to Sony, Nintendo introduced a Philips uh, disc-based system with Nintendo, and with that system, Sony was completely betrayed. So they go to the CEO of the company. They say, why don't we just create our own console and get back at them? And he slams his fists on the desk and he says, do it. And from there, in one fell swoop, Sony finally topped Nintendo. Someone finally beat them. And it's a regret that Nintendo lives with to this day and forever, probably.
Yeah, forever for sure, because you're looking at, and that was the thing, like Sony transcended gaming into an adult arena. It transcended it and put it in a major way on a mainstream, in the mainstream eye, because like Final Fantasy is not for kids.
Mm-mm.
That's not, the 10-year-old. I wasn't 10 years old playing Final Fantasy 7. I was a teenager. I was mid-teens. I've been playing games for a long time, and I remember going, this game is just so captivating. You get to like name the characters and make decisions within the game through dialogue, and then this turn-based system of fighting. I'd never even thought about it, because then I had to think, instead of just thinking I'm in this fight, I got to win this fight. I had to think ahead. So now I'm like, oh, and then the game itself was just so fucking beautiful at the time. Like those summon magic, the summon magic.
They go on for like a full minute, yeah, or like 10
oh, and some of them, and some of those attacks look so crazy. And if you were lucky enough, and I don't want to spoil it for anybody that hasn't played the game, and
it's been out for over 20 years.
I understand. Yeah. But there are people there. You have to understand, there are people that are being not just introduced, but being introduced for the first time. The only reason it's a remake is because it says it on the box.
Yeah.
But if you could get Knights of the Round.
Oh yeah.
If you got Knights of the Round, that's one of the coolest looking attacks. It's so great. And I just remember going, yeah, it was worth fighting that hard to get this. It was, and that was the other thing too. It's one of the first games where if you worked hard for something and you earned, like when you got that thing, it was worth getting. It was very rare that you got something in that game that it was just like, oh, that was just to change the hair color. Oh, that was just some aesthetic thing. It was like most of everything in the game made everything easier for you. Knights of the Round made it easier to fight. Their final weapons, all their final weapons, the golden chocobo that you can run, like you can get, because that thing can go anywhere. And for a long time I was like, I thought that thing wasn't real for a really long time. I could always get a black chocobo, but I could never get a gold one. And then the day I got a gold one, I was like, what? It is true. It is possible. That means Knights of the Round is out there for me to get. And I scoured the literal globe for that game, for that. I was not gonna let up until I got it. And then they do some aesthetic things, like giving you extra story. Do you remember how they give you the story behind Zach and the story behind Vincent? And you just like, there's still stuff to know. And you're like, this game has so much stuff, and
Yeah.
there's so many, and there's different ways to traverse the globe when you're on the map. So you have like the airship, you
Mm-hmm.
got your you got your chocobos, you got all these like layer upon layer upon layer upon things that give you something. Going, damn, this is important. Damn, this is important. And then if you don't do a thing at that time, then you don't get to do it because they're blowing that place up, or
Yeah.
that particular thing you just traversed is in space, like literally. You cannot get back on that rocket ship. Because that shit, I mean, it changed the way you just really looked at gaming, because you were like, if I play another game with no story, will I like it? You know what I'm saying? Because
Mm-hmm.
it made me look at games that I really enjoyed differently, like side scroller games like X-Men that I played at the arcade. I was like, this is cool, but like I'm using the characters I got, but like I know there's way more story here.
Yeah.
And it was like the first thing I thought about. So then when Sony PlayStation drops God of War, I was like, yo, this is another one. They did it again. They did it again. And I was just like, that first scene, and then they like Quentin Tarantino the whole thing, and pull you back. And
You talk about the
like,
first God of War or the remake?
no, the original God of War.
Oh, yeah.
Because the remake isn't a remake. The remake is a continuation of the story.
Yeah, I was confused if it was a continuation, if that was the Kratos we all knew, who was like this bloodthirsty tyrant and he's living with the regrets that he's made, or if he was just a different interpretation of that character.
No, he is the same character, because I don't know if have you played God of War?
I finished it. Are you talking about when he gets the blades like midway
Yeah,
through? Yeah.
yeah. For me, I was like, yeah, this is the same guy. And then also, what is it? The bruise, the blade of Olympus going through his gut. Do you remember in
Yeah.
God of War 3? And
I
then
didn't play God of War 3. I played 1 and 2. Yeah.
so in God of War
You can give it
3
away. I don't
is
care.
yeah. So in God of War 3, he finally defeats Zeus, and the ghost. Well, not the ghost. I guess the essence of Athena shows up and is like, I need the blade of Olympus. I need that power. And she's and Kratos, Kratos by the end of it just says, is like, I trust no God, and then stabs himself with the blade of Olympus, and the power that was inside of him to beat Zeus was released into the world. And that's the last thing. And he's like, and Athena's like, how dare you? Like, mortals won't know what to do with it. And then it cuts away as he like dies basically on the ground. And then they cut back to the sword on the cliff, but the blood trail down the side of the rock to say like maybe he's still alive. And then we're thrusted upon to him living in, with in Norse god territories. So when we meet him again, has lived a full life ultimately.
Yeah.
And he is, for lack of a better word, I guess, he's a god. He's still a god. And you learn a lot about him in PS4. I'm telling you, man, like, and that's the thing. When you with PlayStation, it's like, if they get you hooked on a game, they've got you. Like, that's it. Like, Metal Gear Solid spawned how many more of those,
Yeah.
And they're all, for overall, the series itself is very good. God of War is another one. Overall, the series is very good. Overall, Final Fantasy VII. I mean, what is there to say about Final Fantasy VII? Final Fantasy VII spawned Kingdom Hearts, and that spawned a whole generation of another type of people that like a different type of playstyle RPG. It is transcendent what they did. It is very transcendent what they did in gaming.
Yes, they shatter their own genres. I mean, because what Sony does that really impresses me beyond Nintendo, beyond Microsoft, is they invest in the storytellers in a way that nobody in a million years would. If Microsoft saw that script to The Last of Us Part 2 or Nintendo, they'd say, you're not fucking making this game. Like you're gonna alienate yourself from everybody. You're not making this. Sony says, go ahead. And they even when games fail, they keep going. The Last Guardian failed.
Mm-hmm.
Shenmue 3
Mm-hmm.
failed,
Mm-hmm.
but they still gambled and they did Last of Us Part 2. It's getting a lot of shit online, but in the UK, it's like Sony's best-selling game ever. And
Hmm.
I'd have to look up the numbers in the U.S., but I'm pretty sure they're doing very well. They're doing impressively on their own as well.
And
Even
then the success of that with Sony gives you success and gives you faith in particular developers. So SquareSoft came out with another game called Chrono Trigger on Super Nintendo, and then they remade it on PlayStation and added like some cutscenes and then gave you like more backstory. And that was another game that had the multiple storylines to it. Squaresoft is really good at like really telling you like, hey, there's more than one way to end this game, and you can defeat the game with not getting everything. It'll just take a whole lot more, and it'll be a hell of a lot harder.
Yeah.
And there's a moment in there's a couple moments in Chrono Trigger where there's this lead villain guy that you've been fighting from all over time and space literally for the whole game, and then you have a choice where he can join your party or not. And if he joins your party, you put your team in a very strong position to win. But there is another way where he becomes a part of the party and you lose the main character of the game. And you can beat the game without the main character of the game.
Nice.
And it's like every decision you make, you can't go back on it. This is what happened. And it's just like Squaresoft sowed those seeds, and with Final Fantasy VII, they put such validity. So then they come out with this game, Xeno Gears. I want to say they made Xeno Gears. And Xeno Gears is another game that uses a different battle system with some great storytelling that me and my brother love to death. It's called Xeno Gears. I have not been able to find it since I've seen it. It was an RPG, and you could like you did like this 3D turn-based system battling with like a little bit of mini game style stuff from God of War in it to like build these guys. It was basically like short story like Gundam for RPGs, like Gundam the anime RPGs.
Yeah.
Gundam Wing. I had to be very clear. Gundam Wing, not Gundam, but Gundam. Anyway,
but
yeah, it was such a find, such a cool find. And then as PlayStation continues, they give you Tekken, and then they give you what is that game? DOA, Dead or Alive, and then they give you Virtual Fighter, right? And so now you're looking at and Virtual Fighter was a big hit in arcade. So then Virtual Fighter is on PlayStation. It's like I can just play this game in my home. That's crazy.
Yeah.
The moment they were able to start taking arcade games and going, hey, you can play that same level of cool quality gaming in your home, it changed things. It changed. I'm not sure if it was for the better because I feel like arcades are kind of dope. But they overall, they just changed the game. And, and then there's just so much that happens after that. The way they approached like the 2D fighter games, the way they approached, Resident Evil. I mean, they gave us Resident Evil. There's just so much that Sony has put their time and effort into, and let creatives tell these crazy stories to the point where some of them are now movies. Like you were saying, like Resident Evil's a movie. I'm not saying it's a best movie, but they were like, we got to start making these video games movies. Yeah. We got to start making these video games movies because there's a real base, there's a real audience here for them. and
Yeah.
people want more of these stories to be told, which says a lot about the game.
Yeah. Well, the thing that Sony did that I think all these other companies didn't really do was they took their time when they made a console. The thing was, all these other companies, they would just kind of throw something out of there. Sega, they had some very fantastic consoles. The Sega Genesis, um,
Sega
and
Saturn wasn't too bad.
Sega Saturn was very good. It had so much potential, but they
Yeah,
rushed it too early. And
they
that's what's,
rushed that, and
yeah.
they rushed Dreamcast. The Dreamcast was a big rush.
I loved the Dreamcast. That's one of my favorite consoles, but if they just waited a little longer and added
Yeah,
a
because Knights is still one of the coolest like games. 3 games I played. I thought it was really cool.
which game?
Knights.
Knights, like KNIGHTS.
I believe it's NIGHTS. I think it was like
Oh.
this purple dude. It's a 3D flying thing, and he like flew through stuff. It was like one of the first 3D flying games that I can remember that was like
Mm,
really good for its time. Like
yeah,
the mechanics of flying in that game was just like, oh, this feels like actual flying. It was
yeah,
pretty cool. I don't remember. I'm
yeah.
pretty sure it's called Knights.
Yeah, I mean the thing was though is that Sega outside of the Genesis, they just constantly shoved shit on their consoles because they wanted to be first. With the
Yeah.
Genesis, they added the Sega CD, and
Yeah.
then on top of the
Oh
CD, they added the
yeah.
32X, and then
Yep.
yeah, and then they released the Sega Saturn, and when they released the Sega Saturn, the price for it was astronomical. It was like $500 or something like that. And
Jesus, that's insane.
it was like 500 or 600 bucks. And there's that very famous Sony press conference where they're about to reveal the price. So whoever their money guy was, he walks up on stage
Yeah.
and all he says is 299, and then he just walks away, and the whole crowd just erupts. They go insane. Uh, they knew what they were doing. They knew how to price it right. They knew how
Mm-hmm.
to develop the technology right. They knew how to reach out to the developers and have them create their games properly. And the reason the PlayStation 2 was such a big hit was not only the technology, and not only because they took longer, because even when people got the Dreamcast, which sold very well, the PS2 had their secret weapon, which was the DVD player. And
Yep.
and at that
It
time,
plays movies.
yep.
What? It plays HD movies, and you're just
Mhm.
like mind blown.
Well, it wasn't
Mind blown.
HD at the time, but it was basically the equivalent to HD,
Yeah.
because back then DVDs were expensive.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah. So
I'm your age. I
yeah,
remember.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So everybody, that was like an option B. Like, well, I can get a PlayStation 2 and I can play I can play a movie and play like the newest video games. And
Yep.
that DVD player was pretty finicky. Like, I don't know if you ever had like a disc skip out on you when you used the DVD player on yours, but I remember they constantly advertised The Matrix as like the highlight movie. And for some
Yeah.
reason, that movie didn't play right on my console, but on one
Oh
of my
wow.
buddy's consoles, it played just fine. But not only that, you had the optical input in the back. You could get surround sound with your PlayStation 2.
Yeah.
All these
Yeah.
things the Dreamcast didn't have. The Dreamcast had wonderful, perfect emulations of arcade
And you could
games.
upscale. You could upscale the resolution. I don't.
Yeah.
I don't. I don't know a lot about anybody else, but like depending on the game, you could upscale resolution. The game would look even better.
Yeah,
Like
you'd
it's like,
have the
yeah, we'll give you
RGB
like the
output.
standard. Yeah. Yep. It was incredible, and PlayStation 2 for me was a mainstay. Like if they broke, like I had a couple of PlayStations break over the course of having them. Uh, but I was like, yeah, I'm just gonna get another one. Like I would
Yeah.
go years with a PlayStation, and then eventually it was like, you know, not open or like not read discs anymore. So I moved around a lot. And like another thing where I'm from, because I was, at the time, like as a kid, if when I got a PlayStation, I would like pack it in my bag, and go over to my friend's house. We hook it up and play it because I was like one of the only friends that had it, and at the time. And then when we finally all got PlayStations, and then you know, it kind of like just kind of went from there. And I want to say, didn't one of these one and then that was the thing that changed for PlayStation 2 was the wireless controller.
Mm-hmm.
Once they came out with the wireless, because their Bluetooth wireless controllers were way more responsive than the wireless controllers that Xbox has. I remember playing Xbox games and going, the moment these batteries start to go, the connection is wonky as shit.
Oh, they had the double A's, on the 360.
Right, but like with the Bluetooth technology, the thing that kept your controller charged was the system. So you had to just hook it up to the controller, charge it, boom, you're done, and you just unhook and chill. And like there's little things that they did. They were like, oh, not only do you got these wireless controllers, up to 4 controllers can hook up to one system. And you're like, so you're not wired anymore. And then they're setting you up for your online, right? So then they started saying they started saying, hey, we got these Bluetooth devices, we got all these connections. You know, they were like, we've been getting you ready for online play for a minute over on Sony. And I don't know, man. I think they what their thing was like they weren't the ones trying to like look at this new fancy video game thing we did. You know, it was they didn't have to do that. They didn't have to like show the world that they were good at video games. They just believed like we're just gonna do these games. We're gonna make these games for gamers first, not people who just play video games and then believe that they're just for children, because that's got to be a part of it too, right? Like Nintendo is this family friendly system. Xbox is seen more as like you were saying earlier, the type of console that isn't seen as like, you know, this is for, you know, regular everyday gamers that do this. A lot of people use Xbox for competitive gaming, but between the friendly gamers and the competitive gamers, there's a large, massive crowd of people that just like to play video games. So like, and Sony's like, we'll address that group while y'all try to like grab those markets. We'll address the people that just like playing video games.
Yeah. It's like the Xbox is a lot like Budweiser, and and Sony is like a glass of Chardonnay. You know, is the best comparison I can make. But
No, I was just gonna ask, what is the most memorable moment on a PlayStation game for you?
Watching the trailer of Metal Gear Solid 1 and seeing how that, but
like even not just your introduction, like as far as like your gaming experience is concerned, like I know that's part of the gaming experience, but like while you're playing a game, what was like a move or a moment like for me, a good moment for me, like one of the most memorable moments for me is the Knights of the Round summon. The first time I used it in Final Fantasy VII, I'll never forget it, because I was like, first of all, this is a very long summon. This summon is going on for at least a minute. But also, it's very cool looking, and I feel this is the coolest shit that I've ever done in a video game, and that's just how I felt.
It's like, I mean, that was just an orgasmic festival of lights, Final Fantasy, when you got your summons. And that Knights of the Round goes for like 2 minutes or something like that. And when you use it, whoever you're fighting, they're fucked. Like, it's over.
What is it? It's all nines, as my brother would say. It's all nines. You're hitting for all nines.
I guess I remember when I was playing Metal Gear Solid, when I was inside the first part of that level, when you're underground, you got to take the elevator up, and you're underground in Shadow Moses. I remember listening to music and watching the opening credits on the screen as I'm going around sneaking these guys. I'm like, I've never played anything like this in my life. I've never had something this cinematic. I feel like I'm playing a movie. That was incredible. I mean, other moments with the PlayStation, if I were to transition it over to PlayStation 2, It's amazing. I remember I keep attaching it to Metal Gear, but that's because Kojima, he's like a fucking magician when it comes to learning the the tacticalness but behind the hardware. He really knows how to intrinsically get into the mechanics of a system and use them to their highest ability possible. So when I saw that trailer to Metal Gear Solid 2, uh, I thought there's no way this is in game, and it was. You know, when you saw that tanker with the rain going down, and then you play, and I remember I bought Zone of Enders only to play that
Oh,
demo. Yeah, yeah, man.
oh man, hold on. Son of the Enders. Konami was killing the game for me, dude. When I saw Konami on that game, I just went, aren't those the people that made Metal Gear?
Yeah.
And immediately I was like, I'm gonna try this out and see what it is. And me and my brother, like, this is the best mech game I've ever
It's
played.
so good. Everyone can enjoy it. You're just a mech
Yep,
that flies around with a big ass fucking sword, and you're
yep.
just hacking the shit out of other
Hack and
mechs.
slash and everything, and you're flying around. And you can like grab other mechs and spin them around and throw them at you. Oh my god, it was so great. And then
Yeah.
there was a second one made,
Hmm.
Zone of the Enders, the second runner, and I bought that. I have that now. Like I kind
Nice.
of, yeah, I had to revisit. I was like, is this game as good as I remember it being? And it is. The mechanics is still good. The controls are still good. All the powers you get leading up to the end of the game, like they're all good. It's all great. And like how you can like move through using every sub weapon that you get. It's just, and then the power up and the flying, just the
Oh, yeah.
in the air battles. Like it's very, very good. That gaming system is the bomb. And me
Yeah.
and my brother, like, not to sound too old from saying the bomb, but damn, the, the moment we saw that, it was like, we want to see more mech games copy this. We want to see more mech games do this,
Yeah.
uh, because it is important to us to. It was so important to us to see games that were like, oh damn, this battle system is kicking. Like the story's ass, but this battle system is kind of cool. Like
Yeah.
what was it? Bayonetta is kind of
Yeah.
in that realm where we're like, the story's ass, but and it's a really weird game, but she's got guns on her ankles and she's shooting them from her hands, and she got all these cool moves she can do with her hair. Like this is an amazing game. And then uh, what is it? We were playing after we played Zone of the Enders. Another gaming system that like stuck with us was Dynasty Warriors,
Mm,
and Dynasty Warriors is
God.
just this hack and slash set in feudal Japan.
Yeah. Yeah. It was
Feudal,
set in like ancient Japan. I don't know what year.
yeah, like a
And
feudal, like the feudal era of like dynasties and stuff like that. And we were like, yo, this game is so great because you can just like hack and slash your way through like millions of like just PCs, like NPCs like waiting to get, a boat to the head, or like all these cool ways to just like play all these games. And then we were like, it'd be so cool to have a game like that where you could just be like so dope and like have to fight all these people and have to use all these dope moves. And we saw the evolution of that as we've clearly gone through the years. But yeah, PlayStation 1, PlayStation 2 just kind of set the bar as far as like franchise games. Like I
yeah.
trust them to do well with the franchise games. I'm never worried that a game in the series is going to be a flop, like especially their
Yeah.
legacy games. Their legacy games always have something, and they knew they could milk the hell out of Squaresoft in the Final Fantasy series, and they have been doing it to a T since I've been
Yeah.
alive. Like they have the Kingdom Hearts series, Dirge of Cerberus. Now they got like these like fighting games, like based in the Final Fantasy world. It's massive, 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 massive.
Yeah, I mean, God, I think about all the classics that are on the PS2. I mean, of course, Metal Gear Solid, and you got
Yeah.
Shadows of the Colossus. I think was like the
Oof,
last.
that's
Wow,
a
and talk
that's a
about an
real good game.
ending.
That's a
My
real good
God, that
game, man.
ending.
Yeah, that is a
Heartbreaking.
fantastic game.
Yeah. I mean
That's
that's a whole game where you just fight bosses and
after boss, and
Mhm.
then yeah,
You climb up enormous towers, and that tower is the boss. And you got to
hmm
stab it in the head multiple times. I'm not going to give away the ending, but oh boy, it hurts.
yeah.
You won't
The cool
forget.
thing is the it hurts, and like one of the cool things that was such like a cool glitch about the game was like no
Mm.
matter where you were, if you whistled, your horse would come. Like it didn't
Yeah,
matter where you were, like your horse would find you. I thought that was cool,
and every game
and it
copy
just
that.
yeah, and I just Shadows of Colossus is really good. I think a classic game for me uh, on PlayStation 2 uh, because PlayStation was so I don't know like was Midnight Club. I don't know if you remember Midnight Club, the dub edition.
A little bit, a little bit. Yeah.
Uh, I played the hell out of that. NBA Street
Oh yeah, I remember NBA Street.
and
I
NBA
remember Dave.
Street.
I remember they had a Dave Chappelle
NBA Street was
sketch.
that shit, bro.
Remember
Man,
that Dave Chappelle sketch where he was playing like the kid who had cancer, and I think they were playing NBA Street, and he just like yelling, and the kid's like, "In your face!"
oh yeah.
Yeah.
That's so funny. And like you could man, PlayStation 2 jam like PlayStation 2 jams with God of War. I mean,
Yep.
God of War was that was the next level. Like the first introduction to like a true ant for me at least, like an anti-hero, like a
Mm.
literal anti-hero. Like like that where he's like, oh, this dude who gave up his whole life to be, you know, an arbiter of war ended up killing his own family. He's like, Jesus Christ, this guy's the worst. And then they make him wear his dead family's skin on his body for the rest of his life.
Which is
So
why
it's
it's all
like,
white. Yeah.
yeah,
It's
and
their
that's why it's called
ashes.
the Ghost of Sparta. And it's just crazy, man. That's a crazy storyline to me. And it
Yeah.
like, and then was it Grand Theft Auto, you know, on PlayStation
Now
2.
that's amazing because Grand Theft Auto 3, that's where it really took off, and the whole gaming industry transformed because of that
Yeah.
game. And there's so many games that try to copy it. And GTA 3 first came out on the PS2, and I remember reading an article about it before it came out, and they're talking about how it's going to be this big thing. And then I remember
hmm
playing it like in a local GameStop. They had it on there. I don't think they'd be allowed to do that anymore. Maybe they would, but they put it on there, and I was like, oh my god, I can go around and just beat up random people with a baseball bat and shoot them and blow up these cars and just do. It's like it was like Shenmue but fun, and it's like Shenmue if Rio was a serial killer, and that game was just that was the pinnacle. That's what everyone strives to continue to copy. From the
Yeah.
and each Grand Theft Auto trilogy game got better and better. I mean, San Andreas was, I mean, they improved on every single mechanic.
Yeah.
Phenomenal. And then when Grand
Yeah.
Theft Auto 4 came out, it came out simultaneously on Xbox and PlayStation. And I think Xbox 360 got the DLC first for the GTA 4 games, which
hmm
is unfortunate because if you had an Xbox 360 and you played it, who knows how long until that ticking time bomb of a console would crap out on you,
Yep.
which is why I give Microsoft so much shit. I'm sorry, but they released a defective console knowingly. They said to Phil Spencer, "Hey, this console, the designer said that this thing isn't working, it's overheating, we don't know why." And he said, "We'll just release it anyways." Yeah, and that cost them billions of dollars in repairs for that 3-year warranty. And I remember mine broke on me once, and I heard people were returning it like 5 times. And I'm like, why the fuck would I buy another one if I gotta have to keep returning it? And then,
Yeah, you're talking about the
yeah,
360, right? I heard the
yeah, the
Xbox
Xbox
360.
360,
Yeah,
yeah.
that thing was I from all my friends got it because they wanted to be rebels. They wanted to be like, I don't want no PlayStation. And then, you know, people fell in love with Halo. With a real talk about it, Halo was a really good game.
Now that
And
was a game
it
changer. Yeah,
thrived and it thrived on Xbox 360, like 100%.
yeah.
But the red ring of death became like it's what it was absolutely 100% known for. And so like a lot of people were like, why buy a system that constantly needs to be maintenance? That's not what I bought this for. Like I get enough of that from my computer, and I got to deal with my video game console. That's not what I got into this for.
Well, this
And
is
so,
probably why Bill Gates is in charge of the epidemiology department for the coronavirus, because he's familiar with viruses.
okay, wow.
Take that for
But
trying to save my life.
and then they do stuff like they canceled the Sony E3 reveal because of what was happening in the country. That level of awareness for a company will always pay you off. It will always work because it says to your gamers, to your fans, that people that do care about what is happening, that do feel like, I'm not sure if I'm thinking about video games right now. So we feel you, we understand you, and we'll hold off.
Yeah.
And that's just the level of what Sony brings to its customers, man. They really care about you a little bit. They always have a little bit.
They really sort of inadvertently were ahead of the game here, where they kind of copied what Nintendo did and just had their own digital presentation of the console. And they pulled out of E3, and a good thing they did, because that pandemic happened. You know, this is before the pandemic happened. They pulled out of it, and at first people were like, "Why the hell are they doing that?" Well, it turns out it worked out. Maybe Sony knew about it. No, there is the PlayStation caused COVID-19.
Wow.
They were no. Bill Gates did.
Shut up, Mike.
But you know, it worked in their favor, and it was a great presentation. Now, the interesting thing is Sony and Microsoft are sort of at a game of chicken now, where it's like, who's going to reveal the price of their new console first? You know, because
I mean, and the truth is, you know, everybody is aware that we are basically now buying a computer. Like, you're buying a computer, and you're buying an all-in-one thing when you buy a PlayStation. PlayStation gives you access to everything. You can go on their interface and get whatever you need. Like, almost literally, you can buy their games, you can buy movies, you can watch TV, you can record video, you can stream live to Twitch channels and shit like that. It's like it's not anything that the Sony isn't already doing, and it's seamless, and it feels natural. Like everything, all the design of Sony is meant to make you feel like you're home in some sort of way. I don't know. It's really hard to explain. Like, I guess it's not really hard to explain, but the responsiveness of the system, the controller comfort, like all of it feels natural. Because I guess for me, I've been playing PlayStation for so long, but I've played Xbox, and I remember that first controller being real, just
the beast,
uncomfortable, like huge. I remember the next one being a little better. And I remember the next one after that being, okay, it's getting on the right path. And right now, I think the controller itself is pretty comfortable. But it's just not touching PlayStation. It's just not.
Yeah. To go on, one thing I do want to touch on is Sony isn't flawless. They've made mistakes.
Oh, yes.
And one of their biggest mistakes was the pricing of the PlayStation 3.
3, yeah.
Yeah.
The 3 was really expensive. Yeah.
What was it like for the best model that you could get? It was like what, like $600, $700, something like that.
It was $600 or $700. And also the thing about new gen consoles, because I know you were gonna talk about it. Not just the price, like that's part of the reason why I always wait, because the price does go down over time. The price does go down, and you know, one of the most important things is like letting, as far as the gamer's concerned, for me, always letting more games come out in the future than getting that first set of games, because developers need to be able to play with the system more and like tweak and deal with its like visual effects and processing speeds and how many pixels they can handle and like what new functions can we add, and they need to be given the opportunity to like really work with the system. That's why you know, those initial games aren't always the best, but they're strong. Like I remember when Infamous came out, Second Son.
Oh yeah.
And in the first Infamous, again, that's another franchise. Again, this is what I'm trying to say. Every time I bring up something, I go, "Oh yeah, the
Insomniac
Infamous
does it again.
series."
Yeah.
Yep, Infamous series comes out, and Second Son comes out, and it's pretty decent. And it really showcases the visuals of the system. It shows the smoothness. But the game itself isn't. The game itself is immersive enough. The story's solid, but it doesn't show off the power of the PS3 the way a game like Heavy Rain does. The way a game like, because those type of games is really like, damn, this feels real. Like Heavy Rain had this visual. The visual to Heavy Rain was like, this feels real, and it took, the system being out a while. It always takes the system a while to be out a while. The prices go down, and that's when I buy them. And then I end up having that system for a really long time. And then, like today, PS5, not today, but PS5 was revealed. And I was like, I'll be getting it probably in a year and a half, maybe more. Because, you got to give the developers and game developers time to make a really good game for the system. These newer systems always end up, being alright, but the power of the system can't really be, beholden until it's been out for a while, especially for a lot of developers.
Yeah. With the PS3, I remember it was very difficult for developers to make games for it because they took the processor and they split it up into various units or parts. I don't know. I don't build computers. I'm not that much of a fucking nerd.
I mean, I am just giving you.
I'm just kidding.
I am giving you my gamer experience with games. Especially from a Sony PlayStation standpoint. So, I'm only going off the little bit that I know. So don't.
Oh no. No. I don't know. No. I just but I remember watching a video on it, and essentially they took the processor, they split it up, I think between like two halves or something like that. And that's why it took developers a long time to learn how to make games on it. So first off, the console was way too expensive. And second off, the processor was so split up that a lot of the ports of games were way better on Xbox 360 until your console broke. And then
go ahead.
Well, but luckily in the end with the and of course the biggest problem with the PlayStation 3, the biggest thing they had, even worse than overpricing their console and all that, was when they had their security breach. I think it happened in like what?
Oh yeah, for their payment system. Yep. When you get like PlayStation Access and so I remember that.
Everybody's credit card information, all their information was corrupted and revealed, and that could have been something that sunk the PlayStation. I mean, I could imagine Phil Spencer over at Microsoft just rubbing his hands and smiling in excitement, like now they have their red ring of death. But they bounced back from it, and they did okay. And in the end with the PS3, although it took a while to take off, they still got some incredible exclusives. And mostly thanks to Naughty Dog with the Uncharted series and with The Last of Us. And Heavy Rain was amazing. I remember my brother-in-law was telling me about this game. He's like, you got to see this thing called Heavy Rain. You see it? I'm like, no, what's that? He's like, it looks like real life. It's like real life. It's not a game. I'm like, what are you talking about? And then he showed me the footage, and I'm like, oh my God, it's a drama. It's a movie. It's not an action thing. I do have some of my reservations with David Cage's writing. I think he's a little tacky with some of his writing, even in Heavy Rain. Like we did it like Norman Jayden. You didn't need that character. You didn't need the silly virtual reality goggles that he had. there was like a real cheap moment where when Madison finds out who the killer is, there's this shocked look on her face. Like you think she thinks it's Ethan, and it wasn't that at all. And they never even established that she knew who Leonard Shelby was. And
Right.
and
But
so there's a lot of that.
like there is a way you can establish, because when she goes back to that house, if you play out that entire scene, even like because there's a couple chances you get of getting her alive, where if the conversation goes right, you don't end up in the basement and then you walk back out. But he like ties her, that one guy ties her up and puts her in the basement, and you wake up and she's got to get out of that. Doesn't get the information she needs to figure out who he is. That's part of her story, is that like, as being a journalist, you got to get her asking the right questions, looking in the right places, doing the right thing, because she does, she's an immediate target, because not only is she a journalist, they've made this like attractive person. And every man she comes into contact with in that fucking game is either trying to, be with her or trying to kill her. And that was her whole storyline in that game. And it was so intense.
Oh yeah, I mean, I also think David Cage is a little bit of a pervert. I think like someone who worked in his office said that he was like going around saying inappropriate things to the female staff. So I think that's part of it too. Like, because I mean, like if you remember, like she got nude like 3 times in the game, and we gave her like a fucking
There's like the whole scene where you like play through them like getting ready to have sex. You're like, this was unnecessary. Like this
when
part is
she's
just like
showering.
It's like there's just some certain things. She's like that part I didn't need. But the thing was, like, I get it. It was the part was I get it. Like they were trying to play it like a movie.
Yeah.
Like if you really just if you played out the beginning of that movie, beginning of the game to the end of the game, and got the full complete story, it's a full movie. Yeah. Like it's like a C- movie.
Yeah.
When you find out like the obviousness, like throughout the game, it's not obvious. But if you were like watching on the screen, you'd be like, that dude.
It's the fat guy.
Why are we doing this?
Yeah.
That guy. He's right there. Look at him. Look at this. He hasn't changed his clothes once. He has not changed his clothes.
It's hilarious how they cast him too. There's this movie he did called Derailed with Jennifer Aniston, and he's literally playing a cop wearing the same exact shit that he is in that game, and they just cast him as that.
Wild.
Yeah. It's fucking
so that
look it up. It's amazing. But nah, I mean overall I still loved it that it was like a movie. I think David Cage kind of I thought there was David Cage needs someone to edit his screenwriting notes with, and he could make something incredible. Like I thought Detroit Become Human was good, but it still had so many cliches. Like there's just the abusive guy who like had his daughter there. And he's like, fucking robot. It's just like, come on.
Yeah.
But such a good game still. So many memorable. I mean, honestly, I think my favorite moments from Heavy Rain are like everyone's least favorite moments, where you're just kind of being Ethan, living your life, taking care of your kids, and when you're and then after the opening credits, you're just trying to establish a relationship with Sean, trying to make him love you again. I kind of wanted to see that game rather than, we got to have an action sequence. We got to have like some guy run over a cop with a bulldozer. It's like we didn't need that stuff.
And then the other thing was I felt like the only thing that was missing was not traversing more his trauma and his mental illness, because that's what they depicted in the beginning when he was having those blackouts and you had those moments where you're like walking through the game with him. And then that moment, you're like, oh, maybe this dude is the dude. Like, maybe he is that guy. Like, he's clearly fucked up a little bit. So, like, that's what they make you believe in real life. When you're a little fucked up, you're more likely to kill the motherfucker, which is whatever. That's a misinterpretation. But for the game, that's what the message they're trying to send you. But eventually, they kind of pull away from it because he's focused on saving his son. And, I think that part is kind of weird. But did I cut off But I was surprised Ethan even made it when I was done, because when I was done, Ethan went through hell, man. By the time he was at the
Yeah.
end of this game, he had been through hell and back. And I was like, if I don't get this man his son, I'm gonna feel bad. You know what I'm saying? Like, I was like, man, I beat the hell out of this character.
I'm
I
gonna
better get this man
cry.
son, because I will. Because like, there's an episode, there's an ending where you watch Sean die, and you're like, and it's like,
What?
it's atrocious. Yeah.
Oh, is that where he's like
yes.
drowning? Where he drowns in the rainwater?
Yeah,
Yeah.
when he's drowning in the rainwater and he's trying to get him out. But like, I think I had Norman Jaden, he had died.
Norman Jaden.
And then the journalist had died. Yeah, and Ethan had gone through all this stuff and made it there, but I didn't have the people I needed to, like, you know, help me get him out and pull the levers and stuff. So he's sitting there trying to get him. He's like, no, Nathan. And then that's when the cops show up. And then I'm arrested. I go to jail, and the murderer walks away.
Yeah.
That stuff had me like, oh.
There's another one where you can rescue your son. I got all the endings. Yep. And you walk outside, and the cops have you surrounded, and they shoot you when you're just trying to bring out your son. Your son runs up, and he's like, Dad, no, over your dead body. Man, that is one of the funniest unintentional funny games where I would just fuck up because it's funny, you know?
Yeah, it gets to a point. Yeah, because it does get to a point. Because like the scene where they don't have the ending where they don't have the FBI agent, and they end up running through all the crates and shits, and like
the construction
trying
site.
To like. Yeah, you're trying to get away from it. It's like, damn, bro. Like, I didn't realize it was going to be this much more if I didn't have the FBI officer. So now I'm like, well, I got to keep this FBI officer alive because I want to see what happens when he gets here, right? Because everybody, you find out, like, everybody has a way of cracking a case and figure out what they're going to do. But at the very end of the game is like, that dude's still a big threat. Like, he's a big, huge dude with a gun. And he will just kill you flat out. And so keeping the FBI agent alive was really hard because of his addiction to drugs and shit.
Oh, yeah.
And that was just that. I mean, the game is so intricate to me. So intricate.
Yeah.
These little bitty human everyday things that they make you, you know, think about and turn it into a game and make it work and make it, you know, because and then not have to be like fantastical as a game. It doesn't have to be like superpowers or mods to a gun. It's just, here's this thing that's going on and you can totally traverse it.
Yeah.
I think Sony and PlayStation is always thinking about the gaming experience before they even think about anything else.
Yeah. And they had a huge bounce back when they introduced the PlayStation 4, because I remember that E3 press conference, and it was just like Mike Tyson beating the shit out of some rookie. Because I remember before Sony introduced their stuff, Microsoft came forward with the Xbox. And they had like all these random TV features and stuff like that on there that nobody ever used or cared about. And then they introduced and this kind of transitions to the PlayStation 5 in a way. They introduced the concept with the Xbox that you can only play your games if you're online and if you use someone's online account. So then when Sony comes up to do their E3 press conference, the price of their console is like $100 lower. And then they have that one video where they say how you can play a friend's PS4 game. And it's just a guy taking a video game package and put it in another guy's hand, and he goes, "Here you go." Boom.
Yeah.
They were dead. They dead on the spot. It was just the biggest fuck you to them imaginable. They played a game of chicken, and Microsoft lost. And the PS4, I mean, that was a console that whenever you buy a PlayStation, it's a long-term investment, like you were saying earlier. You know, right away, the games aren't going to be amazing. But, you know, further down the trough, that they're going to it's going to pay for itself. And you're going to have an enormous library of classics. And that's what you got with the PS4 with Spider-Man to Last of Us Part 2. People are talking shit about it now, but it'll be good. Final Fantasy VII Remake, boom, boom, boom.
God of
God of
War.
War. Yeah.
It's just I'm actually, I'm actually playing this right now, Star Wars Fallen Order. I
Oh,
don't
yeah.
have a single problem with this game, and I'm not a big fan of Star Wars anything, but
Yeah.
Star Wars Force Unleashed and Star Wars Jedi Power
Yeah.
Battles on PlayStation 1, and then Star Wars Force Unleashed. And I was like, man, Star Wars games are way more entertaining to me than the movies. So I was like, this let
Same
me
with the
just get in these
shows.
worlds and see what's up. And so this one I'm playing, it's got the guy who plays Ian from Shameless. And then I just
Yeah.
got to a point where there's a cameo from Forrest Whitaker's character from one of the Star Wars movies. No, the game is pretty great. I've struggled at points that weren't necessarily boss fights, and I find that interesting. I'm like, oh, I
Yeah.
never struggle with the pawns and the little these guys. It's always these
The
big fights, and no, I like it. It's responsive. It looks cool. It looks coolish, and I like the skill tree system so far. I'm trying to see if there's way more game to play. I'm taking my time with it.
Oh, you'll get to
Uh,
explore the entire map of these places. It's phenomenal.
yeah. So for me, I think overall, uh, PlayStation has been something I've kind of grown up with too. I mean,
Yeah.
think about it now. The gaming industry, would the gaming industry be where it is today without Sony PlayStation's impact of Final Fantasy VII?
I don't think so.
Because we,
They were the guys who
we,
stepped up to the plate and really maturized it.
yeah, because they were I feel like they were just the company that said, gaming isn't just for kids. And,
Mm-hmm.
what do we really have to say to ourselves? These particular gamers don't matter to us anymore because they're now adults? Or do we create a generation of people that will grow up playing something that in a lot of ways would keep kids out of trouble? I
Mm-hmm.
mean, like, if we really think about it, like video games, I stayed in the house. I can't cause no trouble if I stay in the house as a kid,
Yeah.
you know? And there are studies that show that gaming increases focus and, all those things. Um, I would say that, yeah, I think Sony PlayStation, PS1, and that first wave of games, if they flop, I'm not sure if the gaming industry is where it is. I mean, I'm sure it would get there, but it wouldn't have got there as fast as it's gotten there, I think.
Yeah. There's always someone who comes along that changes everything. I think Sony was that company. If only
Mm-hmm.
Nintendo played nice with Sony, it wouldn't have happened. But
Yeah.
that's karma for you. And
Because they were the leaders of the gaming world before
mm-hmm. Yeah.
Sony came. I mean, like we owned the Super Nintendo, and that is what we owned because all the dope games are on Super Nintendo.
Yeah.
Sega Genesis was cool, but like
These are
we
just kind
liked,
of little arcade games.
yeah,
Super Nintendo had the
and
bigger
then
games.
Mortal Kombat and Mortal Kombat 2 and NBA Jam, like that was the other thing too. Everything kind of looked better on Super Nintendo.
Yep.
The Sega Genesis kind of just too pixelated, a little too blocky, but there was just like a little more design to like Street Fighter and Killer Instinct and Mortal Kombat and Final Fantasy 3 and Chrono Trigger and Super Mario World and Super Mario All Stars and Super Mario RPG. Like all those games had a little Donkey Kong,
Mm-hmm.
But PlayStation came along and was like, yo, what if we made these adult themed games, because the people that grew up on games are now adults,
Mm-hmm.
and they're getting into that space where they're gonna feel like, should I give up games because I'm an adult now? And like Sony was like, no, I mean, like, you can play games if you're an adult. Go ahead, go for it.
Yeah. I don't want to be an adult. I'm a Toys R Us kid. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, honorable mention game, Soul Reaver.
Oh
Soul Reaver.
yeah. I have the port to that on Dreamcast. That's the best version of it. But yeah, that's a very puzzle game. But also, man, the atmosphere where you could change it from the
Flip.
world of the
Yep.
living to the world of the dead
Yep.
on an instant, incredible. But what are your thoughts on the PlayStation 5? How do you think Sony will do? Who do you think is going to reveal their price first?
I think the first person to reveal the price will be Xbox and Microsoft, because I feel they know consoles. Every console is playing from behind, and I know a lot of people say, well, they shouldn't worry about that, because some people do have all the consoles. Some people have two consoles. You know, they don't pick between the two. The competition isn't as heavy for some people, but if they're trying to like get ahead of the game for like brand loyalty, yeah, they got to release their price first. They got to release their price first, and they have to lead with a game people are like gonna get excited for, because like Sony led with Miles, like they led with Spider-Man Miles Morales. So leading with that says to like, yo, I gotta get a PlayStation 5 because that's what I want to play. I want to play as Miles. Like that is how I'm feeling. And I know that game's not going to be on Xbox. So in that regard, I don't give a shit what Xbox does. I'm just waiting for the price of PS5. Then I'm gonna wait a year and I'm gonna get it. That's that's just
I
how
got Horizon Forbidden West.
My consoles. Yeah, I feel like Xbox will go first. I feel Xbox will reveal first.
I think if they reveal first, it'll be a great mistake, and they're gonna wait it out, and both of them are gonna just wait like two gunslingers of the Wild West staring each other in the eye, seeing who's gonna draw first. You know.
Yeah, I think that's possible, because like they are what is it? They have the new Avengers game coming out September 4th. And I'm not really sure how to feel about it. I've seen the trailers. I've seen the trailers, and I'm not sure. Like I'm gonna be honest. Like I saw the Spider-Man game gives me hope. But it really is visually like, oh, these are knockoff fucking MCU characters. Why do they do this? And they just design them the way they are in the comic book. And maybe they will have like a skin where you can like totally do that, where you can make them look like they're more comic book true characters. But yeah, I think that that's gonna determine a lot, because I feel like that game will be available on PS5 too. Like they're not gonna let it drop on September 4th, 2020, and then not make it possible to play on PS5. You know, with this.
Yeah, essentially, I think I'm excited to see what the PS5 is going to bring. I'm excited to see who's going to. I mean, I really shouldn't be invested in this whole console wars thing, but honestly, it's just entertaining to watch. Like, I shouldn't really give two shits because they both are millionaires billionaires probably going after each other.
It's good pandemic content.
Exactly, it's good pandemic content. Who's gonna release the best console during the end of the world? So yeah, I'm excited to see who brings it out, who's gonna handle it. I just personally, after my Xbox 360 broke on me, I kind of just don't want to see anymore. I'd never want to buy a Microsoft console again, but that's my own personal bias, and I respect people who do like the Xbox, although they're wrong. And I am looking forward to my PlayStation 5, and I'm looking forward to seeing what they do in the future. And on that note, I would love one day to examine the history of Nintendo, because although they got knocked down by Sony, they're still going. They're still going
here.
strong. Yeah,
they're still here.
You could wind up like Sega and release the Sega Genesis Mini or Micro that nobody wants. So you don't want to do that. Having said that, thanks so much for coming on. I'd love to have you back, Matt. Where can we catch you?
You can follow me on Instagram at Cloud is Dope, and you can find me on Facebook on at Artist Cloud B. And you can always follow Laugh Factory Chicago at Laugh Factory CHI. That is Laugh Factory CHI. Please follow us. We be funny.
Yeah, there we go. Well, thank you so much, my friend. Thank you for coming on. Again, if you want to check out my stuff, go to ypareviews.com. The YPA stands for You'll Probably Agree. And if you don't agree, tell me why in a respectable manner. Thank you guys so much and happy gaming.
PlayStation